This is an open letter uh, with regards to Twitter, which is called X now, or X Twitter. Here's the thing. Years ago, I remember because I always read news websites often, daily, and especially multiple news websites. And I've been doing so for the past 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Years ago, all news websites, including, for example, BBC, France 24, Al Jazeera, and all of them, Der Spiegel, they all had the comment section. At the bottom of every news story, there was a comment section in which the readers could comment. This was 20, 30 years ago, at the beginning of the internet revolution and everybody getting on the internet. You could leave a comment at the bottom of every news article on every website. And I usually read those when I read the news article, more or less, maybe sometimes, because I already know what BBC's perspective is on the news that they're presenting. I already know what their motherfucking perspective is. I read these articles especially to go at the bottom to hear other perspectives, because those comments often reflect other perspectives. And we all know that the truth, there is no truth. Truth is somewhere between different perspectives. You may find a granule of truth, a little here and a little there, and then you have to put it together and come up with something close to the truth on your own. So none of them, speak the truth. They all speak from their perspective, and they all speak based on, depending on which side their bread is buttered. So I read those news stories for the comments. I read the comments to, hear other perspectives about any news, as did most other people that I know of. And then, after a few years, I believe, they changed the regulation. At that point, you could leave a comment without even registering. Just leave a comment. I was reading it, you can just leave a comment. But then they said, they noticed that there was a problem. And the problem was the narrative presented was being manipulated, being changed by other perspectives in the comment section. They're not getting the narrative through, because every time they want to get their own narrative through, others will come and, write down their narrative, and everybody got to read it. So after a while, they said, oh, okay, you got to register. You got to give us your email and this and that, and then you can leave a comment. So, okay, fine. Register. They were hoping that if they ask for people's emails and, registration, password, ID, and this and that, they were worried that people get scared and stop leaving contradicting comment on the bottom of the narrative that they were presenting. Didn't help. People still, they weren't able to scare people off. People registered and left a comment. And after a short while after that, a couple of years after that, they stopped comments altogether. So for the past 10, 15 years, none of these, established news organizations allow people to leave comments, because they're worried that they're spending all this money preparing this narrative that fits their agenda or their profits or their um, you know their benefit, preparing this nice narrative that will benefit them, and suddenly some cocksucker from Africa or Middle East or South America goes in there and pisses all over their narrative with a comment that screws up the whole narrative, and then forces people to think and then go search to find out whether that guy who has left the comment is talking out of his ass or he's telling the truth. And then when they searched, they found out that, oh yeah, there is a conflicting narratives. There's a British narrative about Africa, and then there is an African narrative about the fucking British. And there is a French narrative about Algeria, and then there is an Algerian narrative about the fucking French. There is a coalition narrative about Afghanistan, and then there is an Afghan narrative about the coalition of the Pinkskins. And this results into those well-paid reporters and journalists from those well-known organizations such as BBC and France 24 and NPR and Der Spiegel and all well-known, established names in news. Suddenly they found themselves cornered by all these narratives from these ex-colonies who are pissed off, and they have their own narrative regarding history and present and future. So they got rid of all kinds of comments altogether from their news websites. And sort of, nope, no matter what, who you are, where you are, you can't leave a comment on a fucking news topic in BBC website, no matter where you are, who you are. So, and this continued for a while, and then the social media came. At the beginning, again, like before, they allowed everybody to leave a comment, put up a story and leave a comment underneath it, and then FBI and the CIA went to Mark Zuckerberg and said, fuck you. Our agents are going to come sit here and make sure our narrative gets through, and those people who don't follow our narrative are either shadow banned or clearly banned or overtly banned or covertly banned, suspended, or got rid of, whatever it takes. And so this idea that only our voice needs to be heard started. The whole idea of only our voice, my voice needs to be heard, me, the BBC, only my narrative is the right narrative, goes against the whole idea of internet. The whole idea of internet. Social media added to that, and the whole idea of social media goes against the whole idea of the rich people have the narrative, have the right to express their narrative, and the rest of the motherfuckers should shut up and listen. Salute. The point is this. Now it's Twitter. It's not a question of hate speech on Twitter. It's a question of narrative. It's the question of the rich people and rich countries and rich tribes and rich races want to control the narrative. Twitter has tried to, stop that. Say, hey, you can't have your own. You can't say my narrative is the right narrative and everybody else's narrative is hate speech. Nobody can leave a comment on the bottom of our page because at the bottom of NPR. That's why one of the reasons NPR no longer uses Twitter or X, because again, Twitter is saying everybody can leave a comment at the bottom of their Twitter page on NPR, and NPR is like, fuck this, we're not going to post a news story when anybody can come and change the narrative with a well thought of narrative at the bottom of our news page, our news topic. So they're worried about that. They don't like that. The rich people, the rich corporation, the rich countries, the rich races on this planet don't like that. Don't like changing the narrative. Don't like the poor people and the colonized people change any kind of narrative. And that therefore they are, you know, staying away from Twitter, trying to ban Twitter. Defamation League and this league and that league, everybody going after Twitter. And here's the thing, folks, even if they stop Twitter, there are, you know, more and more daily, the Africans haven't really got into the game. The South Americans haven't got into the game. Daily, there are websites coming up, daily, that, you know, including TikTok and other websites and other forms of, you know, mass communication, social communication, that are coming up that are, even if Twitter is blocked and Twitter is forced into bankruptcy or whatever, even if that happens, still there are so many countries and so many people on this planet and everybody has got into the game. So the narrative will change. There is going to be, if not Twitter or X, some Y, Z, G, P, Q, there is 32 alphabets, I'm sorry, 28 alphabets, and 32 is my language of my shithole. 32 alphabet. There is 28 alphabets, and there are so many websites that the other narratives can be heard. And I'm sorry, but it is what it is, and I'm glad it is what it is, because a lot of the truth is coming out, and it's not hate speech. Well, here's the thing: if you have done some hateful things in your history, if your country, your race, your ancestors have done some hateful things, and as the result of those hateful things, you are rich and prosperous now. Now I'm talking to the French and the British in specific, and Europeans and people of European races in general. If, you know, Australia, you know, if your ancestors have done some hateful things which resulted into, you know, elimination of whole other races, elimination of millions of people, I'm sorry, now you're saying that nobody should hate on you? Well, in order for people not to hate on you, you should not do hateful acts. However, if you do hateful acts, you should accept the consequences that, you know, people are going to hate on you. As simple as that. So I think the British and French will be hated for centuries to come. The British, the French, and in general Europeans will be hated by the rest of the planet. And this is not me saying, will be hated by Africa, Asia, South America. The redskins, the yellow skins, the black skin, and the brown skins are going to hate Europeans for centuries because of what Europeans have done in the last 500-600 years, just slaughtered, because the Europeans had the upper hand in arms and technology and weapons of destruction. So they you know, they went through a lot of these colonies, these countries, these tribes, these nations, these races, and slaughtered a whole bunch of them. So I'm sorry that you feel hated now. Maybe you should have not done hateful acts, which has resulted in you now being rich and prosperous. Those hateful acts were done. 150 million Indians were killed by the British, so the British can load boats with their wealth and take it back to their fucking island. Your ancestors did hateful acts. You became rich and prosperous at present because of their acts, and now you should expect the Indians and the Chinese and the whole fucking African continent hate you. And you should, I think you should just sit quietly and take it up the ass, my British and French friends, because you did what you did. Oh, somebody else did and we didn't do it. Well, you have taken pleasure in your wealth and prosperity for the past couple of 100 years because of what your ancestors did. So maybe the first step is hand over all the wealth that you have stolen from other countries and other continents. You can't return the life of those you killed and slaughtered. Maybe stop attacking other countries, other races, and return some of their wealth. Maybe you decrease the volume of resentment and hate towards Europe in general from the rest of the planet. The solution is not, oh, anybody who doesn't follow our paradigm, our narrative is talking hate. No, the solution is not that. The solution is return the wealth to the people and stop attacking them by air and sea and land. Return the wealth of other nations to them that you have stolen and stop attacking them to steal more. Like in Afghanistan and Iraq and Chad and Somalia and all of Africa and Niger and Nigeria. Stop attacking them to steal more wealth and return some of the wealth that you have already stolen. This is not hate speech. This is facts. And even if you stop Twitter, the Nigerians are going to eventually come up with a website which will take the place of Twitter. The Egyptians, the Nigerians, the South Africans, the Chinese, somebody will come up with a website which will replace Twitter and does exactly what Twitter is doing. Just because you stop the comments from your own website, BBC and NPR, and just because you stop allowing people to leave comments and change the narrative on your website, that doesn't mean you can stop the whole planet from having any other narrative except yours. I think Elon Musk is doing an excellent job. And I hope Twitter succeeds. People need to be heard, and in fact one of the problems that the system has at the moment is that even I want to say Bill Maher said in one of his last programs before this 3-6 months strike that the writers have had, or Hollywood in general is on strike. Before that, in one of his last shows, Bill Maher was, now this is the progressive guy, Bill Maher basically turned around and said, yeah, people should stop talking about politics. Go do something else. Go suck a dick. Go do whatever you need to do. Just stop talking about politics. Stop thinking about politics. Now, who is saying this? Just imagine who is saying this. The guy whose whole life, income, the guy whose life and income and his prosperity and his notoriety and his fame and fortune has all come from talking about politics. This guy is telling people, his listeners, to stop talking about politics, stop reading political stories and stop caring about politics. This is the guy who made his name in politics. And why is that? And why is that? The reason is because they have lost the narrative. Even Bill Maher, he was controlled. He was, controlled opposition. He was a controlled progressive. And he is a controlled progressive. So, because, even he, I say controlled progressive because he never, considered, European colony, what is objected. He never objected to an European colony in West Asia. Bill Maher has always been for Israel, although Israel is like 95% European, and Israel itself is in Asia, but 95% of people living there are European migrants, and they all have a second European passport. Beside their Israeli passport, they have a second European passport. That means they're all Europeans, ex-Europeans, or children of Europeans. So Bill Maher, being progressive as he pretended to be, never objected to how does this make sense that there's an European colony in Asia. So that should tell you that he was a controlled opposition. But him telling people to stop reading about politics, thinking about politics, and talking about politics, and his view is that if people stop, reading and talking about politics, all this antagonism will go away. Yeah, of course. In Soviet Union there was no antagonism. The state declared their perspective on the matter, and everybody else shook their head. And before the internet, and before Twitter, and before all these voices that came out and had a chance to express themselves, there was Bill Maher on this side and the Chill Maher on that side, and everybody got to hear two points of views, and usually they don't contradict it much. And now even Bill Maher is noticing that he is becoming one voice amongst many, and he doesn't like that. He's becoming one voice amongst many, and he doesn't like that. They don't want to change the narrative, because again, even Bill Maher is working for HBO. A lot of rich people have got money on Bill Maher. Can make a lot of money if he says the right thing, and can lose a lot of money if he doesn't say the right thing. So Bill Maher made sure he always said the right thing, even in his objective views. So that's the whole thing. The paradigm through social media, everybody has got a voice, and the narrative of the rich people and rich corporations is no longer the only narrative that people can hear. Poor people also have a voice, and like Twitter says, $8 a month gives you a voice. You can leave a comment for King of Saudi Arabia if you want on Twitter, on his page, and the motherfucker probably reads it. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's I think Twitter, if left alone, is one of the most democratic voices possible. It's just democracy at whatever you ideal democracy that you think is. Twitter is exactly that. It's a manifestation of an ideal form of democracy. Everybody has a voice, and nobody has the right to shut other people up. Even those people who block people, they are doing it to their own detriment, because when you block people and you're making fool of yourself, making a statement, and the guy you have blocked has a better narrative than you, can describe the story better than you, can make a statement, describe the story better than you, and you look like a fool. And since you have blocked them, you don't even know that other guy has made you has exposed your lies and made you look like a fool. So I think the blocking feature should be taken out of Twitter. You shouldn't be able to block anybody. But then you know Twitter should step up their game in terms of uh, uh, blocking frivolous accounts, blocking made up accounts, false accounts. Even if they're not paid, somehow try to verify those accounts. Or if they're not paid, push the comments way to the bottom. But I think Elon Musk is doing an excellent job. And I think this would have been inevitable. And is inevitable even if they shut Twitter down. I'm sure Nigerians are coming up with their own Twitter right now. Eventually somebody somewhere is going to, many other Twitters are going to come up, and you're going to hear all the voices. So might as well be Twitter.